I think Saudi Arabia's immediate priority is to seek de-escalation. Because Saudi Arabia is obviously very much concerned that the conflict currently between Israel and Hamas could metastasize into a broader regional war. So if we see an escalation along Israel's northern border with Hezbollah, and if we see the US being dragged into the conflict, then there is a non-negligible likelihood that other Iranian aligned groups in the region, we've heard threats from groups based in Iraq or even Iran itself, could seek to target US interests in the Gulf. So the Gulf region normally hosts around 35,000 US troops. You've got the US Fifth Fleet that's stationed in Bahrain, and the US Central Command Forward Headquarters that's based in Qatar. And so I think the immediate priority for Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Gulf states is to de-escalate and to prevent the conflict from essentially becoming a region-wide war. That said, I think as far as Saudi-Israeli normalization is concerned, I think that's very much off the table for now. Saudi Arabia realizes that Arab public opinion, Saudi public opinion, are firmly lined up behind the Palestinians, and the political price that they would pay for normalization amid an ongoing conflict, especially given the uncertainty around Israel's response. We heard Benjamin Netanyahu say very clearly that Israel was out for vengeance, and so the human toll of Israel's response is arguably going to make it even more difficult for Saudi Arabia to pursue normalization anytime soon.
Dr. Al-Hassan, it feels as though the big question now lies in whether we see other nations drawn in, like you just outlined. What would draw the likes of Lebanon or Iran into the conflict at this stage?
So I think there have been indications that if Israel were to embark on a ground invasion of Gaza, that Hezbollah might be drawn in to play a more direct role in the conflict. We've already seen Hezbollah send a message, I think, to Israel that they were serious through low-level hostilities along the border. And if we do see Hezbollah play a more direct role, then there's a bigger chance that the US will get involved. And if the US gets involved, then all bets are off, because Iran and Iranian-backed groups in the region are likely to escalate not only or retaliate not only on the Israeli-Palestinian theater, but also attempt to target US interests, especially military interests, more widely in the region. And that will, of course, include the Gulf region, where, as I said, there is a significant amount of US troops and capabilities stationed.
Dr. Hassan, let me ask you here whether you see in the near term any possibility for a truce. There were some headlines going around yesterday suggesting that Hamas may be up for it, but then other people were saying that that is just posturing. But to your mind, is there any possibility of a ceasefire or a de-escalation of hostilities over the coming days?
Well, I think the ball at the moment is in Israel's court, and it will depend on how Israel chooses to respond. If the Israeli response is to attempt to eradicate Hamas's infrastructure within Gaza and launch a ground invasion, then we're likely to see a protracted conflict. If, however, Israel backs down and decides to pursue a less escalatory response, then I think the chances of a truce might be marginally higher. That said, I think we're likely to see the likes of Saudi Arabia, which has cautiously re-engaged with Hamas earlier this year, attempt to pursue and attempt really to support regional efforts towards de-escalation. And I think that explains the flurry of diplomatic activity around, including with leaders of Egypt, Jordan, and other leaders and states that are able to exercise some influence over Hamas.